Hello, hello, and welcome to the first Facebook Live Coaches Chat at the Run Center, at the NYRR Run Center, New Balance Run Hub since 2020. I'm not sure the exact date, but anyway, for those of you new tuning in, I'm Coach Roberto Manje. I'm here with my friend and colleague,
Coach Ben. We're here. It feels great.
Yeah, we're in person. We're live.
We're live?
Yeah, out. We're
It's
live.
not virtual?
Yeah.
Like a box around us?
Yeah, we're at the Run Center, at the Run Hub. That's 320 West 57th Street here in Manhattan. Obviously, some people watching are local. Some people are watching from, well, we don't know. So give us shout-outs. Let us know where you're watching from. And let us know, actually, if you're like, I guess, an OG, if you've been watching from before the pandemic. It's been 15 years or something like that. It feels like the meme from Titanic. It's been 84 years. But yeah, we're super excited to be back. Ben, what have you been up to?
Not a whole lot, man. No, I've been a lot of stuff. It's been running, and we have group trainings back. We've getting ready for races. Attending our races. I know we got races coming up this weekend. The United Airlines NYC half is less than 7 weeks away.
Time to start training.
I know we'll leave that one there for now, folks. We'll get back to that one in a few minutes. But yeah, just happy to kind of reopening. We're back here in the Run Center, like Roberto said. First time 2020. I think it was sometime in February we did our last one. So yeah, it's been almost 3 whole years. It just feels good to get back in here. The Run Center staff, they're fantastic. The Run Hub, if you're looking for new gear and that stuff, it's up here. Come check it out. Felix and his crew are amazing. But it just feels good to be in these chairs, back, live right there. What about you, Roberto? What are you up to? Just, having a good time?
Yeah, I just think it reminds me of I think we were at the office the other day, and we were looking at some photos of like 2020 and today. It's like if we could do like we don't have the tech right now, but like 2020 photo next to us, like how much Ben has changed. I don't think I've changed much, but
a little more salt going on. It's all good.
But no, we've been up to a lot of great programming as an organization. We also want to acknowledge this is February 1st, so it's the first day of Black History Month. We'll have some more information about that on our website, on our social media channels, and also I think down here below. But yeah, super excited about February rolling on, especially because it brings us that much closer to the United Airlines NYC half. Also brings us a little bit closer to spring. I'm not a winter fan, although it has been a relatively mild winter. I know we have some cold weather coming up this weekend, so we'll talk about cold weather running tips and things like that, because generally winter running does have its own requirements. But again, it's been a relatively mild winter. But yeah, I mean, we've been up to a lot, but at the same time, we have been doing these chats relatively regularly through the pandemic. It was all virtual. So again, we can't stress enough. We're super excited to be back. People are picking up their bibs to our left. People are shouting us out, walking by. People are up at the Run Hub. So yeah, we're going to start to do this maybe every 2 weeks or so. So feel free to come on down, pick up your bib, sit back there, and be part of our pseudo live studio audience.
And more importantly, leave those questions and those shout outs in the chat, because that's what we're here for. We always love to talk training. A lot of runners out there, a lot of new runners. I mean, that's one thing about the pandemic that probably a boon in running. One thing we could do on our own, we could run, right? So people are out there, leave those questions, leave the shout outs. It's always a good game we play. Where is our farthest way from New York City shout out? We've gotten Singapore before. Australia is always a good one. Not uncommon to get someone in India. Germany, obviously,
Mars.
That's always a first, folks. You never know. The moon, if you're up there in the International Space Station, give us a shout out. We'll make sure that we call you out. But to leave the questions and the shout outs. But I know big day yesterday, T2 races opened up, folks. If you haven't signed up, all the 5 borough series is up there. If you want to come out and run the Queens 10K, Bronx 10 miler, if you'd like to make the trek to Staten Island for a half marathon in October, maybe as part of your marathon training for November, all that's up there. What are you looking forward to in those T2 races? I know we talked earlier. Do you have one you kind of like?
I mean, for me, it's like really just all the summer races. Again,
summer running.
I just love summer so much. Can we fast forward this and get to summer? But yeah, I think what really got me excited is either yesterday or today I saw on our social channel on our NYR Instagram, not only the T2 race is open, but you could see each race logo. Yeah. And it just like, I don't know, it just like made me excited because like some of them have medals, some of them have T-shirts, but like just seeing the logo made it really real for me. And I was like, okay. But yeah, I think I really like the summer races, like there's great vibe at the park. People are out there spectating, people are running. You show up wearing less clothing, and then you leave wearing even less clothing. Yeah. Just like a shorts and a singlet, where
it's a family show.
Well, I mean, for those parents out there, in the winter when you have to dress your kids to go outside, it takes so long. You got to layer up. You can't find the gloves, this and that. Well, it's somewhat similar for me when I have to go run in the winter because I try to stay off the treadmill. And I was like, all right, where are my long sleeves? Where are my arm warmers? Where's my beanie, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, T2 races for me signifies post-winter racing, and I like that.
And we have some great partner races out there. Achilles, the 4-miler, end of June. The Pride Run. Talk about a day. I mean, that's one of my favorite races that we do. The energy in the park.
I think I'm wearing one of the Pride shirts.
Yeah, one of the Pride shirts. See, there we go. Look at that Superman over here breaking out this shirt. The Pride Run, the end of June. That's always a great weekend in Central Park. I know we've got the Queen's 10K. The Retro Run, I noticed, was back this year for all those who've been.
And they've always had awesome T-shirts. I know you and I have like a few of them that we wore a lot during the pandemic. Yeah.
And the Greta's 10K is back, and the Percy Sutton 5K up in Harlem. All the races are back, folks. Go on the website. I think Member Plus and Above is open yesterday. Everybody else open tomorrow. These will go fast. Our races are hot. People are coming back out there. We have a lot to cover. Yeah, make sure you're on that. But I know we have a race this weekend in the park, I believe. You doing the race this weekend in the park? You coming in?
Actually, real quick, since you asked the question, I think one of my favorite races is the Queen's 10K.
and why would that be, Roberto?
And I think because I can't remember the exact year, if it's 2018 or 19.
I think it was 19.
Yeah. I had the privilege of pacing Ben, which really that year, man, I just kind of towed him around. You had a good race, I think, right?
It was good. It wasn't what I wanted to be, but yeah, it was. I thought I was in better 10K shape, but it kind of dropped off.
So did I.
You were fine that day, but yeah, we saw a lot of people, a lot of shout outs. But
no, I mean, I thought that you were in better 10K shape.
Yeah, maybe. We'll just put that in quotes. I was in good shape. Your round is a shape, folks. But we had a great time, and it's you never know what you get. Some days we got hot days. I think last year it was actually a nice day. Last year I think it was quite beautiful out there in Queens. But it's a flat 10K. You get out there, you get run. It's also part of the 5 Borough Series. You get the medal. I mean, you're out in Flushing. There's a great food, the great atmosphere. The clubs are always out there. The kids' races afterward are always fantastic to watch for everybody to get out there. So
it's also a unique course versus the Central Park ones that you could really see the other runners throughout at different locations, which I really like. So, yeah. But, yeah, you mentioned we have a race this weekend. What is it? Are you running it? I will not be running it this weekend. I'm sorry. I'm just getting back into training.
It is the Manhattan 10K. I believe this race is sold out. It went quick.
It is.
This is one of our most popular 10Ks. It's a full loop plus of Central Park. You come in and get your bib, get your race T-shirt. The weather, actually, I think winter has finally arrived. January, I think I read, was the warmest January ever in New York City in terms of the temperature. And it came in today. We have snow here in the city. For anyone who's coming in, we all woke up. This weekend, Saturday looks worse than Sunday. It will be brisk, but we do have our 10K in the park. I hope to see you out there. It's going to be a beautiful day to get in those 6.26 miles, otherwise known as a 10K, and get ready. And then the weekend after that, the Gridiron 4-miler on the big game that day.
Yeah, that's that sporting event that I don't really watch that much. I'm still buzzing from the World Cup, proper football. But hey, shout out to our American audience, which I guess is just about everybody. Gridiron is a great race. I remember, again, a few years ago, pre-pandemic, I took part in the longest throw beforehand, and I found out I have a cannon, and I finished somewhere in the top 5. So
did you throw it or kick it? I know
I could do both. Yeah, I threw it. So if there are any NFL teams still looking for a playoff run, or Super Bowl, I don't even know where they're at. But,
actually, the 49ers, 2 of their quarterbacks went out. If you're out there listening out there,
if you need a quarterback, like
Kyle Shanahan, if you're on the mic, hook him up.
I have good endurance. I don't want to take a hit, but I could launch it pretty well. So.
Actually, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may be looking because Tom Brady announced his retirement today, folks. So maybe if you like warm weather, Tampa Bay.
And I'm a little younger than Tom Brady, but a lot less experienced. So. Speaking of which, we do have our first big marquee race of the year is the United Airlines NYC half. What is it, 6-7 weeks out?
It's about 6.5 weeks out from today, March 19th coming up. I know there's all kinds of buzz and excitement. We have our weekend long runs. Our TFK runners are out there. A lot of people out in the park. They're getting excited. It's always... people always say it. As Roberto said, his favorite race, it really is. The United Airlines NYC half is my most favorite race that we do. There's nothing like it's a challenging course. Coming over the Manhattan Bridge is a view like no other, looking both north and south. You get to run on the FDR, the run up through Times Square. It's a fantastic race. It's always, the weather last year was beautiful. Good day.
So last month, because it's February 1st, so about a month ago right here, we did a chat for the United Airlines NYC half. We were about 10 weeks out. So again, we're about a month and a half out now. There's still plenty of time to train. Obviously, if you're doing the race, hopefully you have started. But yeah, we should go over some, training tips, like where you should be. Yep. You should get with a coach if you already don't have one, and what options are there.
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't know where to be, or you just kind of you've been working on your own, and you're like you want more structure, or looking for somebody to help you out there, you look up the coaching lab with Run Coach. This is a fantastic virtual training option. You do have live coaching on there, 1-to-1, so you are paired up with a coach. It gives you a structured training plan. You tell the app where you are in your training. It's going to give you, a day by day, week by week layout of what your running should look like, what your speed days, what your easy days, more importantly, what your off days, because yes, you do want to have those off days, you do want to recover, but also the build up on your long runs. And then obviously if you have questions, you will be attached with a coach, you will be connected with a coach, so you can ask those questions. If there's something in your training plan that you're just not sure about, again, we also have questions. The training plan looks great, it's a roadmap, but if you're not sure, if you're not clear on exactly what you're supposed to do, maybe the paces don't look right, they're too quick, they're too slow, maybe it's a bit aggressive, reach out to the coach. Check it out on our website. It's Coaching Lab by Run Coach. It's fantastic. I've used it in the past. Roberto, have you been on Run Coach before? Have you checked out a couple times? Or I know you're. Do you even run these days, my friend? You play soccer. You play footy a lot.
Website. Try to put me on the spot. I actually invented Run Coach. We've been part of Run Coach since its inception with the partnership, and I've used it. We have great coaches there. And what's really cool about Run Coach is every year now, the last 2 years, we get the runners come in for the marquee events, but most recently the TCS New York City Marathon, and we had a great collection of runners from all around the country, all around the world coming in and talk about how it helped their training and how they were able to, navigate the race on that day. And, looking forward to doing the same thing in less than 2 months now. So I've used it. But again, for those of you who are local and you're either doing Run Coach or, we have group training, been overseas at various locations, including here in Central Park. But also, I think some advice for people who are, local is if you can get on the course, I would say get on part of the course. Obviously not the Manhattan Bridge during traffic area, but
FDR? Don't run the FDR? Do you
also don't get on the FDR, but there is the FDR, run path as well. But a part of the course does take place in Prospect Park as well as Central Park. So it's always good if you can to mimic the course as much as possible. Otherwise, you can always get on the website, see the elevation profile, and kind of mimic that for your long runs. It's really a really good training tip. That way you know what to expect in the latter stages.
Last week our group training runners were out in Brooklyn, and they were on course because, we're big proponents of that. You definitely want to get if you have the advantage, take the home course advantage if you can, folks, and get out there to try it out, because the more things you can get in line, your hydration, all that nutrition stuff that you want to be going through as part of the training, get those things laid down as quickly as you can. And then what are your goals? Sometimes your goal, again, depending on where you are with your running, maybe you're coming off, maybe 2022, which was last year.
Yep.
These years just
welcome to the year, man. Happy New Year.
It's February 1st. January went by so fast. Maybe last year you were building your base a little bit. Maybe you're training in different aspects of where you're running. Maybe you're working more on speed, more on endurance. You're feeling good. Your training so far has been good. Maybe come off an injury. Those happen too. It's part of what running is, kind of encompasses out there. So look right now, you're about halfway through your training. Look at what your goals may be, whether it's a PR, whether it's just a finish, whether you're running for charity. TFK, we have so many different runners out there. What is the meaning to your miles? What are you doing out there? Keep that in mind, because everyone's got a different reason for being out there. Always keep that in the front view, because, again, you're going to be in Central Park when you're done, and a medal's there and a lot of friends.
Yeah, I guess in that vein, shout out to both yourself and Steve, who's behind the camera. They'll be part of our amazing pace team. Steve is flossing back there. But they'll be part of our pace team. I believe you're pacing the 2 hour, 5 minute group. So if you're looking to run around 2 hours, 5 minutes or just under, Ben will be your pacer. And then Steve will be the 2 hour pacer. He's an absolute metronome. He wakes up in the morning, commutes to the train station, commutes to the office at 9:09 per mile. He's just locked in. So, and obviously we have other paces from an hour 20 all the way to 3 hours. But more to come on that, especially at the experience. We look forward to seeing you all there. Yeah.
Yeah, make sure.
So I just gave a shout out to our crew here, which also includes Christina and AJ. Thanks for the work you do behind the scenes. But we also want to shout you out and get to your questions. So Christina, take it away.
Asks, what's the best meal to have the night before a race?
Best meal to have the night before the race, the one that gives you the most fuel, the most energy, the most go for. It's a very personal thing. I know, like when I'm running, depending on what race I'm going for, I like certain things before. I like a mix of protein and pastas, or any kind of carbs. I also like a little bit of sodium. I sweat a bit more, so it's what I like to do. It really should be what you're training through. During your training, you're going to be determining what you need. I mean, realistically, like that Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday before your long runs are dress rehearsals. You're kind of figuring out what you need to eat, how much sleep you need, your hydration plan, so that when you get on your long run, your body is getting used to the fuel, so you can kind of get those pieces put down. Because nothing new on race day. You don't want to be all of a sudden doing pastas all the time and then have a flank steak the night before the race, even though it sounds amazing. I don't know what I mean. What do you like to eat before a race, or do you just like whatever it takes?
Yeah. No, I would say number one, Ben's answer is spot on, and then number two, at least for me specifically, I could smash the whole pizza by myself. So I'll have like a plain pizza and a little bit of pasta, and then I'm good to go. But also, I know what my stomach is like. I know how I digest food, and then but I would try that before my long run, see if it still works, and then emulate that on race day and race week.
And we would like to shout out Ann Kelly. She is tuning in from D.C.
All right.
There we go.
The
All right.
District of
Next
Columbia.
question. Is strength training and cross training enough to build up the necessary athleticism to run a half?
I would say, in short, yes, as a supplement, but like you have to practice what you're going to do. If I'm going to run a half marathon or whatever the distance, I have to train like I'm going to run that. And the best way to do that is by putting the time on your feet out there on the roads, on the trails, what have you, treadmill even. So yeah, cross training should be looked at as a supplemental, not as the main objective. So, it could help address muscle imbalances, it could help strengthen things, or it could just help add cardiovascular fitness without the impact. But I would say if you're going to run a race, try to put time on your feet.
100%. Good to go.
Thank you, Ben.
I'm here.
Emma kind of asked a similar question, so you kind of led into it. But what type of strength training would you prioritize, and how often should you incorporate that into your workout plan?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of just body work. I mean, your own body strength is going to be enough. So the body resistance work, you can just do squats, you can do a lunge, planks, you can do single leg work, a deadlift, a Russian deadlift. I mean, balance work for the lower foot. If you do a wall sit, if you have band work at home, if you have access to a gym and you want to add more, that's kind of up to you. But it should be a balance. Like Roberto was saying, it should supplement. You've got to be careful on those strength days, because if you overdo it, everyone said you never want to miss a leg day. But remember, if you got to do strength day, if you have a strength workout the next day or a speed workout, you don't want to crush your quads on their own. I'm also a big proponent of doing strength the same days I do my harder workouts. That way, my easy days are just that. I'm not going to go for a 3 or 4 mile shakeout run and then hit the gym to do a half hour, 45 minutes of strength work, or do a bunch of work at home. I should do my speed workout, the hard work, and then do my strength training after that, because my body's there, I'm loose and good to go. And you can just do some basic work at home if you have access to. I know you have a home gym.
Shout out to my home gym.
Shout out to the home gym. If you have stuff at home, it's great. You don't need a lot of stuff to really do it. It's just taking care of the body and just doing basic stuff is really good.
And Rosemary, she commented that she's excited for the United Airlines half. So if she's running, good luck. Next question. Matt, what is the quickest turnaround between races that you suggest? Half marathons specifically.
Quickest turnaround, it really depends on your recovery and how hard you went on race day, how you felt on race day, and even how you went into it. If you're carrying a few niggles or you're kind of like holding on the razor's edge, then maybe take a little bit more time. But I would say give it about 2 weeks at least. We sometimes say like a day per mile of the distance run, so 13 miles, 2 weeks about. But yeah, there are some people who can do it in 10 days, but it's also like, are they both max efforts? Typically they're not, because you're maybe a little bit tired or want it's a goal race. But I would say 2 weeks is a pretty safe bet.
Spot on. Yeah, just listen to your body. That's the biggest thing that you can do there to take care of yourself. And like Roberto said, if one's not a goal race, if you're out there with a friend, always play that up. Maybe one's more as a training run as opposed to a race. But take care of yourself. You always want to get to the start line healthy, my friend.
All right. And a shout out to Indu from New Jersey. And then here's the next question from Logan. How should you best handle runner trots?
Runner trots.
This guy's losing it.
Well, hopefully not hot on my run. But
So yeah, runner trots, for those of you out there who don't know what that means, it's just essentially you're out for a run and nature calls. I'll leave it at that because, nature happens.
You only put it on hold for so long.
Yeah. So I would say, if it continues, if it's something that happens every now and then, that's just maybe life. But if it's something that it continuously happens, I would, maybe see what you're eating and when you're eating it beforehand. I personally have never had coffee in my life, but I know a lot of people do require coffee in the morning. It's a diuretic, so that can, kind of speed things up. So maybe look at maybe having less coffee, for example, if you're a coffee drinker. But it really could have something to do with what you eat and how close you eat it to your race, to your run, whether it's the night before that you're eating something that sets you off or the morning off. So I start to kind of look at like when it's happening. It's always happening in the first 30 minutes, let's say, or in the first 3 miles, what have you, and then look at what you're eating and try to reverse engineer by eliminating certain things. And if it goes beyond that, then certainly maybe seek a healthcare practitioner.
All right, and we have Edgar from East Harlem United Runners. He hopes you both have a blessed day.
Thank you, Edgar.
We love Edgar. He's a longtime fan, longtime NYRR member. We can see him in the park running. So shout out to you, Edgar. Thanks for watching.
All right, next question. What do I do when I work 3 to 4 days with 12-hour shifts, and by the time I get home, I'm too tired to go run?
Yeah, that's always a challenging one because, I mean, sometimes depending on what your job is, I was talking to somebody recently who was working with a runner who actually was worked in the medical field, and they were walking like 6 or 7 miles a day just within their workday because you're on your feet for 12 hours, you're walking back and forth. And in some regards, you're building the cardio part right there. And so like in terms of how much running they needed, it wasn't a lot more because they're already building up the effort there. It's hard when you're working 12 hours. I don't know if you're sitting all day, if you're on your feet all day. Yeah, it is kind of trying to carve out that time. Are you a morning runner? Are you an evening runner? You obviously got to get your rest and your sleep for work and to make sure you're running as best you can. So you have to kind of, again, it's kind of a personal thing there, but take care of yourself and kind of figure out, is it best for me to kind of get my time before? Maybe if you have an hour off during your day, even to get out just for 30 minutes here and there can make a difference. I'm not sure if you're training for anything specific or just trying to figure out how to fit in running into your work life, find that balance. A 12-hour day, that's a long day to work. But again, if you're on your feet, that's just gonna have to kind of figure out the best way to do I go out before? Do I need some rest? Maybe on my off days, just how I feel. You may wake up and just all I got in me is 40 minutes, and it's gonna be easy and slow. That's all I got,
Yes.
All right, recommendations for knee stiffness / pain.
Recommended knee stiffness, pain.
Yeah, I mean, that could sound like runner's knee. I guess the question I would say, and I sometimes do this when we get these sort of open-ended questions, is it knee stiffness and pain throughout the run, or is it stiff at the beginning of the run, and as you warm up through the run, it loosens up and you're good, and then maybe you feel pain afterwards? Because all that could maybe mean different things, like you have tight tendons, you have tight muscles, it could be even a little bit of tendonitis, it really depends. So I would say just try to maybe make sure that your body's pretty warmed up before you go out for a run, and that might mean just walking a little bit to your run destination or walking around your run destination before you really start, or even just starting really, really slow and then easing into it. That way you get the body time to kind of lubricate itself, the joints, the blood flow, and things like that. And then if there's pain and it continues to persist, then that's something that, again, you probably should check with your healthcare practitioner because it might be something more acute versus like, oh, I'm just stiff in the morning. Like I know when I wake up in the morning and I bend over to try to put on my socks, I'm like, okay, I need to give it a second because like I am not seeing my feet, but after like a couple minutes, I'm able to, touch the floor and everything. So cool. So yeah, we'll have more questions and shout outs, but I think we're going to go to our next segment, Ben. I don't know what's so funny. Tell me.
Just the floor. Did you fall down to touch the floor?
Well, no, like I bend down to,
making sure that happened. You fall over. I mean,
it's winter. The floor is cold. I put on socks and, I got to be able to reach them. I got long arms.
You got long arms. Yeah. We're moving on to our second segment here, folks.
We'll get more shout outs. Let us know when you're watching. So far, we have DC and New Jersey. We could go further.
We got further than that, folks. Yeah. We do have, it is, I think winter finally arrived here in the Tri-State area. You woke up this morning to our first measurable dusting of snow here in New York City. It was very scant, but we got some.
It's gone already. I'm looking outside.
Yeah, it was there for about an hour and a half, and it's gone already. But it is getting colder, and I think if you're looking forward, looking ahead to the race this weekend or your weekend long run, it is going to be brisk this weekend, folks. So, as Roberto said earlier, cold weather running always takes a little bit more, I won't say effort, but just you have to plan a little bit more what you're going to wear because you never know how much layers you're going to need, when you're going to need it. Do I need an extra jacket, gloves, buff, scarf? What am I going to need, and what can I take stuff off? Because they'll be out there for 30 minutes, hour, 2 hours, whatever the case may be. And also sometimes, as Roberto was saying, sometimes you get stiff. It takes more time to get going. If it's cold, your body's trying to keep you warm, so it's going to take energy just to do that. So sometimes people say, I've got to run an 8-minute mile for this run, or I've got to do a 9-minute mile. Maybe dial it back and look at the effort as opposed to the pace. Why is that important? Because some days your body may not be in there. Maybe too cold. You may be too tired. I mean, it's a good rule of thumb in general, whether it's hot or cold. Always judge the effort. And a good way to do that is if you're on your long run, you should be able to talk. Yes, you can talk to yourself. It's fine. No one will look at you differently, but it's a good way to. They will? They won't? You don't think so?
Not in New York City.
Not in New York City. I do it, and it's fine, folks.
In Iowa, maybe, but
in Iowa,
not in New York City.
In New York City, it's all good. But yeah, always judge to see how you feel, and it's always good if you're doing your long run. It should be conversational. So talk to yourself or just talk to your friend. That's a good way to run by the effort as opposed to what your watch is telling you. That's always a good one. What other tips you got for him on the cold weather side, Roberto?
Yeah, the other thing I'll kind of piggyback, because you made a good point, it's also, apart from effort, it's sometimes even if you are really fit and familiar with running or been running for a while, it's good to maybe switch up and like, hey, today I'm going to go and run by minutes, instead of miles. Like, I'm going to run 30 minutes. And I'm going to run an effort. I'm not worried if I get 3 miles or 4 miles. So, that way you also control how long you're going to be out there versus chasing a specific number. But, yeah, and that's a great tip just in general, whether it's cold or warm. I know I do that more in the winter because I don't want to be out there too long. So, I'm like, hey, instead of 18 miles, I'm going to run 2 hours. If I get 18, great. If I get 3 miles, well, I got lost. But
18 miles in 2 hours?
Yeah.
Call that Tuesday?
Yeah. But yeah, another tip, which I kind of alluded to earlier, is layering. So layering is something I enjoy doing a lot in the winter because as I start to warm up during my run, I sometimes get hot. I could roll up the sleeves, or I could just take off, a windbreaker like this, tied around my waist, and I have like a long sleeve underneath. But like by layering, you are able to kind of shed layers as you warm up, or obviously put them on as you get colder. But you also make sure that you don't overheat or you're underprepared. So layering is something I usually do primarily more on the top. I wear a buff around my neck to protect my throat, but like I'll usually just wear layers on top. The bottom, just either running jogging pants or running tights.
And always keep in mind, I mean, it's not always the perfect rule of thumb, but dress like it's 10 degrees warmer. So if you have a slight chill when you start, it's going to be okay because, as Roberto said, you're probably going to warm up. So again, it's not always a perfect rule of thumb because obviously if it's 10 degrees outside, 10 to 20 isn't that much of a difference. It's still going to be brisk. But if it's like 35 or 40, think it's like closer to 50 degrees for all those who do a Fahrenheit. Celsius conversion would be something like 10 there.
45?
Yeah.
It's like 7.
There you go. So again, always kind of, the basic idea is dress like it's a few degrees warmer so that as you do have to peel things off. And then again, if it's even too cold outside, you don't want to go outside, a treadmill. I think we have one of our questions, our pre-submitted, was the treadmill. I'm not a big fan of the treadmill. I will get out there for most conditions as long as it's safe for me to run. To get out there. But if you have a treadmill, sometimes that's the better call. That's the better effort, especially if you're in an area where they don't plow the streets, they don't take care of it, they don't treat it, it's salty. Sorry, not salty, it's slippery, it's icy. Always be careful on the ice,
You're
folks.
salty by the treadmills.
I am salty as salty can be, folks. I'm an old sailor over here. But yeah, I mean, again, the treadmill's a good option. Maybe you have one in your home if you're a part of a gym, maybe a fitness center in the building that you live at. Maybe your best friend's got a treadmill and you go over and run at their place. It's always a good option because you can do all kinds of things. You can do speed work on a treadmill, you can do a hill work on the incline, and just get an easy run to get stuff out of the way. It's all, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big treadmill guy. Do you run on treadmill much, or do you prefer to get on the trails? And
I am your friend that owns the treadmill, so you can come by.
Come by.
But honestly, I own a treadmill. I've never been it's never been my first choice, but it's more like, hey, this is a tool I have at my disposal. So depending where I am in my training, if I really don't want to miss a day or I need to get quality and like it's too hot, which is rarely the case with me, but primarily too cold or windy or whatever, I will use the treadmill. But another way you could utilize the treadmill, which I used to use back in my days in Colorado, is maybe I'll start the first part of my run on the treadmill just to break it up, and then I'll go outside because I'm more warmed up and I've got maybe the quality. So like if I'm doing a 2-hour run, I might do an hour on the treadmill, which usually was my threshold of like, like mentally I could hang in there. And then I'll do the next hour outside, or I'll start outside and then I'll come in, shed a few layers, hop on the treadmill and really get after it if I'm doing like a progression run. But yeah, I mean, I think treadmill, it's as good of a tool as you can make it, as you could use it. Not everybody likes it. But, I mean, my personal best, I think I've once ran 21 miles on the treadmill because I had a long run and I couldn't. And I don't think I will ever break that record because I have zero interest. And that's also back when 21 miles was like a shade over 2 hours, where now, I would be out there for a long time.
A little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
I mean, and a treadmill can be used for safety. I think safety in general, we talk a lot about that at New York Road Runners in general. I mean, just in general, when you're out there running, especially now the time of year in this area where, the sun comes up about 7 and goes down around 5. Again, we had some earlier about a 12-hour work day. Maybe you can't get out there when it's light outside. So be safe. Lights, reflective gear, always key, folks. Because as I say as a coach and working with our runners, you want to come home in one piece, whether running in a group or running on your own. You want to be safe. You want to be smart. So check the conditions of the area that you run in. I know, Roberto, you live more upstate, up in the Connecticut area, so I'm sure they don't plow very much. You have the trails. I live here in the city, where if I want to find a clean track, I can simply head to Central Park. It's cleared out right after it snows. So again, look where you are. Always find the best, safest place to run. And if you're definitely running before the sun comes up or after, lights, reflective gear. I know a lot of the runners we run with at night, they have like this cool, like reflective, almost like a vest. Yeah. They have on. They have different lights. It changes colors. Something that will grab a driver or someone, or biker even, a cyclist, their eye, so they know that you're there. Because again, you're not going to win a battle with either one of those.
Well, yeah, I mean, shout out to all those delivery drivers in New York City with their electric bikes, because they see you whether you have reflective gear or not, and they don't seem to be bothered by it. But yeah, the cool thing too is that a lot of the tech materials that us runners wear these days that we purchase, even something like this jacket that I'm wearing, already comes with like a bit of built-in reflective gear material on it, so that sometimes you can't tell when you're looking at it like this, but when you shine a light. But yeah, additionally, there's a lot of like small things you could buy at your local running store that you could like slap on, and like it makes a world of difference. You could say it's night and day difference. Night and day. Thank you.
I think I have to get a drink of water. That was pretty dry.
Yeah. Night and day. I'm going to lead into that joke. It's a pun. All right, back to Christina and my comedic
shout-outs and questions.
All right, back on the topic of treadmills. Do you have any tips for treadmill runs? It's so boring, and I sweat a lot, even in the winter, from Heather.
I don't use them, but go ahead.
Yeah. Ben's not going to chime in because it'd be disingenuous. Yeah, I mean, some immediate tips, and there's loads of them. Whether you have like a smartphone or a tablet or something, or a TV, putting on something to distract you, whether it's a TV show or a podcast or what have you, that really helps. Just make sure that you are distracted but still focused. You don't want to end up on YouTube going off the back of the treadmill. But obviously listening to music, that's the only time I ever listen to music when I'm running. It's on the treadmill. I'll put on a playlist that I know is like an hour long or what have you. That helps. But then the sweating thing, that is very, very common, so that you're not unique in that. And that's one of my least favorite. So I bring a towel, and then I'll either have like a proper big fan in front of me or one of those small fans that you could clip. Some treadmills have a built-in fan, but I've yet to see one that's like powerful enough to make a difference. It's usually just like your little kid whispering in your ear. So it's like, it's annoying. I know you're trying to do something. So yeah, I would say the fan, towel, and some form of entertainment to distract you. Aside from that, just really focus on your why. Like, you're on the treadmill not because you love to run on treadmills, but you're running the treadmill because you're training for this specific race, or you're chasing this sort of fitness goal, and that also kind of help get you on it and keep you on it a little bit longer. Ben?
All right, and we have Jeffrey from the Bronx tuning in, as well as Lou, who's running the United Airlines half, and he's doing a couple other races with us.
Awesome.
So that's great. And then this is a coach-specific question for each of you. How fast do you run a 4-mile run? So, like, what's your PR in a 4-mile run?
You want to go first, Mr. Laughing?
I don't even. I think the high 26s, but it's been a long time since his body went that quick. But it's been a long time, and I try to stick around like my that 5K pace effort when I do my 4-miler. So if you're doing them here in the park, I mean, it's going to be undulating. So really kind of figuring out the effort base and how you feel that day. And again, I like to run in the cold. Like right now, this is my time of year to hit my 4-miler. I'm not gonna. The retro run is not going to be my 4-mile PR in those conditions. I'll PR like definitely in the colder weather, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's like my PB, which I don't remember off the top of my head, versus what I could do right now. I would say back in the day, maybe high 18s, somewhere in the 19s, so sub 20 minutes. And now a shade under a day. I have no idea. I don't know, probably low 23, 22. I have no idea now.
You call an Uber and just keep the clock running?
Yeah. But hey, I'll get back to you later on this year, okay? Let's circle back on that.
All right. When do you start marathon-specific build-up? How early do you start the build-up for that?
Since you're laughing.
Yeah. I would say, okay, I'm going to answer as a coach because I know that in years past I've like made a fun joke of it at the office. Like I'll start like a month out, but that's also because I have a lot of residual fitness, and thanks to group training where we're year-round training, I'm always running. I'm not training specific for marathons, so it's just start to pepper in long runs. But for the general public, I would say you want to start at least 12 weeks out. 12 weeks is about 3 months, and obviously I let you talk about Run Coach and some of the great training that we have that goes back for like 16 and even 20 weeks.
Yeah, again, like Roberto said, it should be specific to the race you're going for and also where your fitness level is. If you already have a base to work from, maybe a shorter time frame. If not, you definitely go longer. So if you're using like Run Coach, in this case, that's going to be a great tool because you're going to tell this particular program where your fitness level is. You'll probably maybe put in some races that you've done most recently if you have those, and it will spit out a training program. It will give the information that you need, a roadmap, so to speak, to get you to the start line. As Roberto and I will say, throughout this year, and you probably hear it more and more, you want to get to the start line as healthy as you can be. So don't think you have to run every single mile, and more importantly, you don't have to go over miles. If you're running by miles as opposed to time, if it calls for a 10-mile run, you don't have to do 11. You don't want to be overtraining. You want to get to that start line healthy, as fresh as you can get, to get the race in. So always be mindful of the work you're doing on your body to do that. And if you're ever not sure you're not feeling it, take a day off. Rest will get you further than trying to grind through something.
Yeah, and I'll say, if this person's asking a question specific to this year's TCS New York City Marathon, we will be doing a lot of marathon-centric programming, and obviously these sort of chats as we get closer to it. So rest easy, but kind of piggybacking on what you said, I always like to tell this to runners that we speak to and that we coach is that it's better to be 10 miles undertrained than 1 mile overtrained because it's that 1 mile that could lead to injury, and then you have to deal with that. So it's always better to err on the side of caution.
All right. And Emma asked, when do you know when it's time to replace your shoes?
It's always a question that we have. Typically, if you start to feel any kind of discomfort or there's no give back, from a mileage standpoint, it could be anywhere from as low as 200, depending on the shoe style, to as high as like 400 or 500, depending on if you're using the same pair of shoes or rotating shoes. So you'll kind of feel you'll notice the shoe doesn't have much of a spring back or a give. A good ballpark is around 300. Some will last longer than that. But again, if you're using the same pair of shoes all the time, especially if you sweat a lot, like we talked about earlier, I know sometimes if I sweat a little bit, so my shoes in the summertime break down faster than in the winter time. But I'm also cycling through a few pairs of shoes, and also sometimes just the sheer age of the shoe. If you get up into that 4 or 5 months or even 6 months old, the shoe just doesn't have much of a give back. It just kind of loses its running ability.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say, 2 tips on that. One, when you get a pair of shoes brand new, you could always put the date on them. That way you'll be reminded, you have a visual reminder like, hey, it's been 3 months. Maybe I should change them if you aren't keeping track of the mileage. But the other one, for those Strava users out there, a great partner of ours, you can put in when you get in a new pair of shoes, and it'll automatically track for you. And when you get around that mileage range that Coach Ben just mentioned, it actually will prompt you. I know that because on my Strava, I actually put that I have bare feet. So every few months it's like, hey, you put in, I don't know, however many miles in your bare feet, it's time to replace them. I'll look down, I'm like, no, these are mine for life.
They're still there?
That's just me being funny, but that's the truth. So, yeah, Steve is shaking his head in the background. Wish you could see that.
You
Yeah.
in the morning and they're still there?
Yeah, they're still there.
They're still
so,
there.
And they're actually here with me today. So, shout out to my feet. Yeah.
All right. Next question. Is 100 miles on a bike good training for a marathon?
I think we kind of touched on it earlier. Nothing replaces the running aspect. I think especially at that distance, yes, you're going to build up endurance and cardio just from the sheer time on the bike. 100 miles is a long time on a bike. 100 miles on a bike, that's huge. But running a marathon, I think as anybody who's done it or trained for it, there's no real replacement for the miles you have to do because you have to get your body used to and prepped to being on your feet for whether it's going to be 3.5, 4, 5, 6 hours. You've got to get in the training because there is work that your body will do from a muscular to a skeletal, from a cardiovascular standpoint that really can only be done by putting the miles in. And that can be on a treadmill. I think cross training on a bike is great, but I don't think there's much of a replacement. If you're doing like a 4-mile race or a 5-mile race, maybe a little bit less running, but I think for a marathon, at least from my perspective as a coach, there's no real replacement for that.
I concur.
There we go.
All right. We are asking if anyone has some last-minute submissions for questions to please ask them now. And leading in, how to run 13.1 in an hour?
That's a question?
Maybe
Yes,
the bike
that is
question.
a
Maybe the bike
question.
might
I
play
mean,
here.
that's literally math. Yeah. Off the top of my head, that's like a 445 per mile or 444 per mile. So, so yeah, just run 1 mile around, let's say 444, 4 minutes and 44 seconds, and then run another and another and another. But yeah, I mean, the people who are running a half marathon in an hour or at the tippity top of the world of running, they're super elite. Unless your name is Kipchoge, and that's just your split on your way to the marathon, which is otherworldly. But yeah, the beauty about the half marathon and running in general is that everybody gets to run the same course on the same day, whether you're finishing in an hour or 2 hours, as Coach Steve will be pacing. So yeah, just start where you are, set a goal, and then kind of work backwards. And if you're a viewer and you're an hour, a 60-minute half marathoner, well, come on down. We'd like to shake your hand. Yeah.
Speaking of running fast and getting it done, I think it is time for the bell lap, folks. Here we go. Here we come. Let's bring it in quick. We got our bell lap, Roberto. What are we talking about today as we wrap up?
Okay, so for those of you who are new, I guess for this segment, including ourselves, the bell lap is where we quickly talk about one way a runner can stay healthy out there. So on today's show, we're going to talk about tips about alternating shoes for in your training cycle. So maybe expand a little bit. What does that mean? Why do we do that? I think you kind of touched upon it in one of your answers before, but just expand a bit.
Expand quickly on our bell lap here, folks. Yeah, if you're going to be rotating shoes, it's good because it keeps the shoe life longer. And also, maybe you have different pairs of shoes for different runs that you're doing. Maybe one for your speed days, one for your recovery days, one for your long days. The long day is maybe the shoe you're going to wear on race day. So keep that in mind. If you choose to rotate shoes, you have the ability to do that. It may be the idea. If not, find a really good pair of shoes that last you for all the things that you're going to do. Because again, the best thing you can do to your feet when you're running, if you're not running in bare feet, is have a good pair of shoes.
I'm running in shoes. So shout out to our partner, New Balance. They really help us, especially somebody like Coach Ben, who puts more miles in a week than I put in a month. But yeah, so that's the tip. That was the bell lap.
Break the tape. Lean in. Oh!
Yeah. Coach Ben won this race.
There we go.
Yeah, so again, we're super, super excited to be back. We'll be back in about 2 weeks' time. So that's enough time for you to populate questions, shout outs, anything you want. Let us know. But yeah, that's it for today's show. Coach Ben, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us out in virtual land. We actually had a few people walk by, picking up their bibs, giving us high fives and virtual high fives and shout outs. So happy about that. And again, thanks to our awesome colleagues in the background, Christina, AJ, and Steve. Until next time. Yeah, Ben?
And we'll hopefully see you this weekend at the races, folks.
Yeah, good luck to everybody racing.